So you should be able to see our PowerPoint up. We're all coming from the Institute of International Humanitarian Affairs at Fordham University. My name's Lily Egan. I'm the Communications Officer for the IIHA here at Fordham, and I'm joined by Ruth Mukwana. She is the Director of our Graduate Studies programs. Luciani De Leon, she's our Program Officer. You may have already been in contact with her regarding your application or questions regarding your application. And then I'm joined by your professors who you'll be having for your courses, and they will briefly introduce themselves in just a few moments. So by joining a non-credit or credit course, you may be joining to earn your certificate in any of our specialized areas. You're also joining our Fordham University community. Just take a moment to read a little bit about Fordham here. We are a Jesuit university based in New York, but like I said, many of our courses we're going over today are online. So with that, our graduate level courses are housed through GSAS, our Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Um, and just because we're in New York, you will be joining a global community. We have international students from all over. And as I said, please feel free to keep reading about Fordham. We're going to kind of speed through and get to our courses. When you join us as an online student, you have access to several resources through Fordham and through the IIHA, such as the Office of Disability Services, Counseling, Career Services, Mission Integration, our Writing Center. You can always reach out to them for help with projects, IT services, that's important. And our Fordham University libraries have online resources as well, so that's important to keep in mind. And then this is our team. Brendan Cahill is the executive director of the IIHA. Ruth Mukwana, she's our Helen Hamlin Senior Fellow, and she is also the director of our graduate studies programs. Then there's me, the communications officer. Really, you have interaction with me if you want to maybe send in a quote on the program or do a little story on the program. Other than that, I market the programs. Luciani De Leon, I introduced her. Garrett Marino and Mary Louise work for GSAS. You won't have as much interaction with them. If anything, you'll get hopefully an acceptance letter from them on the program. Okay, so today we will be only going over our humanitarian training courses, educating the next generation of aid leaders. You may be joining for credit or non-credit. If you are joining for non-credit, you'll get a significant discount on the course as well as a certificate at the end. We will be having a Q&A at the end of this information session. So feel free to put the questions you have in the chat or just wait until the end. That's fine. We'll go over them at the end. So the Institute of International Humanitarian Affairs is where we all come from. We teach and train our current and future aid workers with the knowledge and skills you need to respond effectively in humanitarian crises and disasters. So we accomplish this by offering these courses to you throughout the world through these online certificate courses, seminars, webinars, exhibits, and we also publish on these topics. So with that, I'm going to start with Anne. She's going to introduce herself and then we'll go in order. A couple of professors couldn't make it today, but feel free to unmute yourself, Anne.
I did. Thank you. Thank you, Lily. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this information session. I'm thrilled that you're here. I am offering to teach the fundamentals and advocacy courses in the fall. My background is most related to the Great Lakes region of Africa, where I worked for a variety of organizations after the genocide in Rwanda and forward and until about 2006. And so I was actually a regional expert and not an expert in any area of humanitarian assistance. I was, however, an advocate for Refugees International and have used advocacy in places where it doesn't appear in the job title, and I love teaching that and going forward. I can get into more detail if you have any questions. My email is edgertona@fordham.edu. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulty just there. We have the slide back up. James, you can go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm an independent disaster management consultant. I've been working in the humanitarian sector for the world's major crises for the last 30 years. I'm currently advising a UN agency and a government and the cash working group on what's going on with the humanitarian world right now in terms of the great humanitarian reset following the changes at USAID. As you can imagine, there's quite a lot going on, and this is relevant for the International Disaster Management course because this is a new course which you won't find anywhere else, and yet it's now at the cutting edge of where modern humanitarian coordination will go. International humanitarian affairs and through especially humanitarian coordination and emergency incident response and disaster risk reduction all come together in this course. And I think I'll be talking about that later. Or do you want me to go through the course now, Lily?
Not yet. That's perfect. I'll
Yeah.
ask Lynn and Willem to introduce themselves now.
Okay, Lynn, you go first. Ladies first, as always.
Okay, this is just an introduction. So, hello, I'm Lynn. I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist by training, and I still practice a little in the UK. But my main life career's work has been mental health programming in humanitarian disaster settings. And I've been associated with Fordham for more than 20 years. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And I will hand over to Willem.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. My name is Willem van der Put. I am based in the Netherlands. I am from Holland. I've been working in the mental health and complex emergencies for a very long time. And I had the pleasure, together with Lynn, to start organizing this course. What is it? More than 20 years ago. This will be
21 years ago.
Yeah. So I have been working in the humanitarian field. I was field worker and director of NGOs, and I have been working at the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp on the more academic side. So that's me. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, about our semester-long humanitarian training courses, as I spoke of, we have credit and non-credit options. So you can apply to any of these courses that we're about to talk about, not receive credit for it, but you will receive a certificate for completing the course upon successful completion of the course. All of our classes do start during the evening, so that could be good for you if you are based in the US, and hopefully will fit your schedule if you're abroad or international. And you'll join a network of over actually probably 4,000 IIHA alumni now. We are all connected on LinkedIn. I'll include that in the chat, and you'll have access to future events, online events that the IIHA runs, and you can also coordinate with us. For example, alumni come back and do webinars with us. The possibilities are endless. Okay, so I believe Willem is going to talk a little bit about mental health and complex emergencies. I'd say about no more than 5 minutes would be great.
Okay, thank you, Lily. Mental health in complex emergencies. It says it all. We have started out organizing this course when we felt that there was a need, especially an interest of many people in the mental health condition of refugees, of displaced people, more general in the humanitarian world. And things have changed a lot in the course of those 2 decades that we're doing it. And what you will find in this course is an introduction to what it is. What is it? Mental health and psychosocial care. Those things you will find the history of this field, but more importantly, you'll find what it's all about. What is it? What is the core of this type of work? And how do we see the need and how do we respond to the need? The wonderful thing is that since we were forced by COVID to do the course online, we have a huge audience of somewhere between 70 and 95 people. And they are all based in the places where they work. They're actually workers in the field, which means that we can share experiences. And that is, although it's too bad that we can't actually be together physically, what made the course richer, I think, is that people can share the experience on the spot, on the very day that they talk to each other. We all talk to each other. People will be in a humanitarian setting, which means that it is always, we're completely up to date in terms of what's going on with all the challenges that we have. In the course, we have lots of different experiences. We've got people, we have guest lecturers, but we also have among us, among the course directors, we have psychiatrists, anthropologists, psychologists, and we think that we can cover quite a huge area of what's actually happening. And we will also update you because we're all still quite active on what we actually do in the different places where we meet. There's usually quite a big group from UNHCR who's joining, and that also gives it a special flavor because you can compare in the course what people do when they work for an NGO or what people do when they work for the United Nations, and how people react to this in a more academic way. I'm very happy that we can do the course once more. We hope, of course, that people will join us and that you will be part of a I think, I don't know exactly how many, but there are hundreds of people over those years who have followed the course. So there is a huge community that you will be a member of. So be welcome. Lynn, would you like to add a few words?
I think I need to say that, I mean, the one key thing is people say, well, I'm not a mental health professional, should I do this course? I mean, what we try to get, first of all, is an introductory course. Secondly, everybody is involved with mental health. So if you're a Watsan person or you're a camp coordinator or you're a food distributor, people who are coming to you are in distress, and understanding a little bit about their distress and what might be causing it will make you do your food distribution or your water organizing or whatever in a more psychologically sensitive way. And funnily enough, here's the thing, often the person someone distressed and upset goes to is the person who is really giving her practical help. They don't really want to go, they don't want to be told to go to a counselor or a psychiatrist. They're not mentally ill. They've had a rotten time. Something terrible has happened. They may have lost all their family. They may have lost all their possessions. And they need some water. And the person they start talking to is a water engineer. So if you're a water engineer and you're interested in how you cope in these situations, this is a really good course for you. And we love having you. And if you're a medical student and you're thinking of doing this work, we also love having you. It really is a course for people who are interested in the mental health and psychosocial aspects of emergencies and want to learn about them. It is also a course that's good. We do have clinical components. If you're a psychiatrist who's never worked in the humanitarian field before or only done bits of it, it's also good for you. And the mixture is what makes it powerful. So I hope that gets across and will be available for people to understand, should I go on the course? The answer is almost certainly yes. Thanks.
Okay, Anne.
So, for those of you coming into MSHS, maybe as a major, or even those looking for certificates, Fundamentals of Humanitarian Action is a core course that takes you back to the system itself and a bit of the architecture of how humanitarian assistance was built. I teach online, but synchronous. And so we will meet this next semester Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. onwards. And so that's the slot for this course. Because it is a core course, attendance is mandatory and you can have excused absences, and I have a way for you to make those up. But what the course does will introduce you to the components of international humanitarian law and refugee law. We're going to look at specifically who is a civilian, the beginnings of the codification of humanitarian aid, and the responsibility to protect, the ideas behind that, where the humanitarian system may be going with or without funding, because this might be a real locus moment for us to transform humanitarian aid. We will follow a couple of disasters, and I say a couple because we'll pick potentially one together that is in the news, but I also want to pick one that's not in the news. And we'll learn where to go and find information about what's happening on the ground. So I look forward to answering any questions you might have at the end of this session. Thanks, Lily.
Okay, great. Ruth, would you mind going over information management for a little bit?
Yeah, hi. So my name is Ruth Mukwana, and I'm not the professor for this class. The professor is Joshua, but he's unable to join us today. But again, this is one of our really excellent classes. Those of you who are already in the sector, information management is extremely important. And the course basically goes over the principles and strategies of effective flow of information during an emergency. As I just said, information management is very crucial to understand the cause of an emergency, the impact on the people affected by it, but also the geographical locations. And then that really helps humanitarian actors and governments and everyone to really look at what the needs are, identify priorities, and also strategies to respond. It also informs, advocacy efforts and resource mobilization. Some of the things that will be covered in the course include really understanding that gathering information and data is just not a technical, practical issue, but it also has political influences, and how do you manage that as a practitioner? Understanding the multiple tools and actors and frameworks and practices, understanding that there's really a whole host of partners gathering data, and then how do they all come together and how do they harmonize some of those tools. You'll be able to identify the key components of a strong information management network, the appropriate use of information management tools, and then also equally important, evaluate the use of new and upcoming technology to gather and disseminate data. And they are looking at AI tools and things like that. It's an online course on Wednesdays at 5:30 to 7:20 p.m.
Okay, Anne, you're up again.
Up again. Thank you, Lily. So this is, for me, the heart of my work was advocacy. And I created this course for Fordham and really enjoy teaching it. This is where all of the practice is going to come out, and you're actually going to form your own advocacy campaign. And we're going to learn how to do this together from soup to nuts, A to Z. We're going to cover absolutely everything. This course is taught on Fridays this semester from 5:30 p.m. and it is online synchronous, so that we can communicate with one another, but it doesn't have the same requirements for your attendance. And so I'm a lot more flexible because I'll be meeting with you one-on-one. I'm going to teach you how to interview and how to be interviewed in the class. I'm going to teach you how to do a 30-second elevator speech and all the kinds of advocacy messaging that goes into taking that information that Ruth was just telling us about and turning it into influence. And so when you're working with people on the ground and holding their stories, which is to me a very important element. Remember, Lynn just told us You're meeting people on their very worst day, people who've just undergone a disaster, and you're asking them for their story. And so treating that as the gift that it is and being able to walk that into halls of power is what I teach you to do in this class. We're going to talk a lot about humanitarian networks, which when you join Fordham is what you will join, is another humanitarian network, because advocacy is never done by one person. Even if there is one person speaking before the camera, there is an entire team of people, including the first responders, who are those in the field who we are there to help. So that's the advocacy course. And again, happy to answer any questions at the end.
Great. James.
Hello, everybody. International Disaster Management, exciting, new, dare I say it, course designed for the Institute, and is the only course of its type in the world. It is, as I was saying before, it's where disaster risk reduction and humanitarian coordination and national incident and emergency response meet. It's an introduction to the principles and practices and determinants and distributions of risk factors in disaster. And what we do is in 15 weeks, with about 5 hours a week, we go through an evidence-based approach to the multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary frameworks needed to manage a L3 large-scale disaster before, during, and after. So it's more than just about emergency response and humanitarian action. It's an online asynchronous course, which means it's difficult to get all together in the same room at the same time. That said, we agree, all of us together, the best time to meet tends to be on a Friday, where I have a 1 hour face-to-face tutorial. So you get me for 1 hour, or as long as it takes, once a week, in addition to the 5 hours of coursework and readings that you have to do, all of which is based on practical case studies of lessons learned from real disasters, most of which I've worked in myself. And we also sprinkle it with fireside chats with experts from all over the world and from every field. People have done the course before. Last year we had a deputy head of mission from one of the diplomatic missions to the UN in New York. The year before we had a head of department at IKEA, and we've had US military, we've had British military, and we have mid-ranking disaster managers from national disaster management authorities. And every year I have students, some of whom are in New Zealand, others of whom are in California. So it spans the globe, which is what makes it so difficult to get everybody into one place at one time, but also so exciting because there's so much to learn from all of these people, your peers' experience. And I think the last thing to say is that what makes this course unique is that you don't hear anything particularly new. That's not the point. But what you do get is an introduction to the 5 forces of disaster, which are not taught in one place. So it gives you the thorough grounding that you need to come away after 15 weeks, which if you don't know something and you're not expected to become an expert, you know who to go to talk to about it. And the fields of disaster law, which we heard a bit about, disaster epidemiology, disaster economics, public administration, and also business administration. So it's like an MBA, a little mini MBA in its own right, and behavioral psychology. All of these come together in the mix, and we have a great time and learn a lot from each other. That's it from me. Love to see you on the course. Happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Okay, so Ruth's going to go over humanitarian resource management and administration. We have about 20 minutes left for the rest of this whole presentation.
Yeah, again, I don't teach this class. It's taught by Professor Pierrette, but she's unable to join us today. It's Mondays from 5:30 to 7:15 p.m. And it really introduces students on the role of human resources management, financial management, program management. Students leave the course with a good understanding of how to plan for the humanitarian response, how to review financing in the humanitarian system, sources management and reporting. And maybe the point really I would underscore here is that this kind of work is not like visible, but is extremely important because there's no way organizations would be able to budget and manage the human resources components of all of that without strong resource management and administration and finances. Yeah, this is me again. This course will be taught by Professor Elizabeth Wickery. She's also unable to join us today, but hopefully next time she'll be able to join. This course is going to be on Tuesdays, 5:30 to 7:15. It is the human rights protections for vulnerable populations. And the course really goes through the international frameworks and norms of protecting vulnerable populations in humanitarian emergencies. For any humanitarian emergency, we're always going to have vulnerable groups are always going to be the most at risk. And so it's really understanding who are those groups, how do their needs intersect, and how are they best protected. The course will really help students understand why vulnerable groups remain at risk, despite the fact that there's multiple protection frameworks that have been adopted by states. It will go over protection standards, mechanisms, violations, and accountability, and also really analyze the primary concerns of vulnerable populations. Finally, the course, out of the course, students will be able to really understand the different legal frameworks that come into play depending on what the protection issues are, depending on what those vulnerable groups are, but also really understand the different organizations and entities that are involved. And then finally, students will be able to assess the efficacy and continued relevance of protection methods today. That's me, right, Billy? Yeah. So in terms of other outputs or outcomes or points to really share about the program, Lily already mentioned that once you join our program, you'll really be joining accessing a wide network of the Institute's alumni. And our alumni really has students who have done the bachelor's in humanitarian studies, the master's of science, the diploma in humanitarian affairs. And this is a network that's been in existence for over 20 years. So it's really a huge network of people across the world. The programs themselves, the classes themselves really are taught by professors that you're meeting now online, but even those you haven't been able to meet are humanitarian professionals. Some of them are still working in the sector. Some of them used to work in the sector. So they are able to give you really both theoretical understanding of the different issues in humanitarian action, but also the practical knowledge. And many of them really use a lot of case studies. So you're really learning you're really getting that practicality, but also the theoretical understanding. Then also for the programs, make it so that students, some of you are able to really zoom in on what is of interest to you. So you may be able to master some specific skills, whether those are around human resource management, and class, if you're really interested in humanitarian advocacy, communication, of course, James's class on disaster management, and Professor Lynn and Willem on mental health. So you're really able to at least get some specialized skills. And of course, I should also mention we have a whole host of other courses as well that you're interested in. You can also look at. In terms of careers where our students go, most of our alumni with the nonprofit, either here in the US or abroad with international organizations or local organizations in their home countries. We have colleagues who are in the United Nations. In fact, some of the students doing the courses for certificates are already working either with non-profits or UN organizations or Red Cross, and which is really great because then that also gives you an opportunity to interact and learn from professionals who are already in the industry. We have students who have gone on to join the former USAID. We'll see what that will look like going forward, but other donor organizations as well, governments, particularly looking at national disaster management entities, academia, foundations, and think tanks.
Thank you, Ruth. Luciani.
Thank you, Ruth. So, this is just a small list of other opportunities that we have. We have the IDHA program, which takes place twice a year. We're gonna have the IDHA 60 taking place in Pretoria this May. Unfortunately, the applications are closed, but if you are interested, we are going to have another one in the fall in Amman, Jordan. And we are also still accepting communication internships for the summer, for this upcoming summer. Please note that this opportunity is unpaid and in person. Okay, so for the application requirements, you are to select which course or courses you are interested in registering for. So you can pick one or you can pick all. It's really up to you. And we are also expecting that you are proficient in English. We are not going to test your English abilities. However, we do hope that you are comfortable just because these are graduate level courses. So if you are not comfortable in your English abilities, it could impact the outcome in regards to passing the course or not. And then for the application, you are to upload your resume and answer some questions like uploading your personal information, nothing serious, just your name, phone number, email, and things such of that nature. And for pricing, there are two options in regards to registration. Most HTC students register for the non-credit option, which is $990. At the end of the course, after successful completion, you will receive the certificate. However, if you're interested in acquiring academic credit, the credit for most of these courses are three, and each credit is the price of $1,732 for the upcoming semester. Also, please note that in order to review your application and for us to make a decision, your application must be submitted and it must have all of the materials. If you submit your application without having your resume, for example, we cannot make a decision. Okay. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention, most of the courses are online, however, with the exception of two, which are in person. I would just want to emphasize that we are not supporting students in regards to the visa process because these are not matriculated courses. So we do highly recommend that international students that are interested in the HCC courses look into our online courses because we will not be assisting with the visa process. So this is just the contact information for GSAS if you're interested in any other GSAS related courses. However, if it's directly related to the IIHA, the HTC courses, or any other programs that we offer, please just directly contact us at iiha@fordham.edu, or you can give us a call on WhatsApp. Also, we're available, and this is our number here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to everyone who just presented. We have 10 minutes for our Q&A, our questions and answers. So please write your questions in the chat or raise your hand. This can be kind of an informal style Q&A. So I open the floor to anyone who has questions. Now's the time to ask them. And
There's one in
yeah,
the
I do
chat.
see one from Paulina. Thank you. Do you have the deadline for applying for fall 2026? So next year's applications. Luciani, do you want to just brush up on um, when we typically close the application window?
So in regards to fall 2026, we don't have any specific information available. I can't guarantee anything. We probably will have the same courses available. However, the technical details as to when the application will be available and the deadline is not yet available because we're still dealing with fall 2025. And usually the application for that is available afterwards. We really go based on the school year, so we can have two applications for two separate school years available.
Paulina, I hope that answered your question. Okay, good. I do recommend, Luciana, you can piggyback off of this, but I do recommend getting your applications in earlier rather than last minute. It's just beneficial for everyone. That way you can have it set, and if you have any application questions or questions about the course, you can then ask those and be in touch with us. So, Luciana, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the application fee waiver window is over for any Fordham information session. And for the HTCs, is there an application fee, Luciana?
Yes, so no, there is no application fee. So because of that, there is no application fee waiver. When it comes to the HTCs and the application, you are selecting the courses that you want to enroll in, and then you pay for the course after. So if you are interested, for example, in enrolling in the mental health course, once you select it, you are able to pay for it directly, the $990, and that is covering the tuition fee as a whole. It is a separate situation if you are interested in academic credit. However, if it's for the certificate, the fee that you see there is the fee directly related to the course.
Great.